Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Very Cool Lasagna podcast. I'm your host, Dylan Lasagna, bringing you once again all the filthy casual takes on the world of sports for you casual sports fans out there like you and me. And this episode number, wow, really? 300 episodes of Very Cool Lasagna. But yeah, in this episode, we're here to once again do a weekly roundup, a mid-season weekly roundup of the San Francisco 49ers. Yes, my San Francisco 49ers, as they prepare for a NFC West divisional rematch with the LA Rams, a very important divisional rematch with the blue and gold. Yeah, this is a very big matchup this coming weekend. But yeah, as we have done here for the last 9 weeks, we're here to talk about the past week and the upcoming week with my San Francisco 49ers in what we call our red and gold San Francisco 49ers weekly roundup in their 2025 campaign. So before we get into that, though, man, can't believe we hit 300 episodes of the Very Cold Lasagna podcast. And yeah, that's, I don't know, like I don't necessarily celebrate milestones as much as I used to here on the podcast. But yeah, if you stuck around and hope to stick around, whether you are old and new listening to the podcast, I appreciate y'all. And yeah, let's continue to make more listening memories, if that's even a term to coin. But yeah, let's continue to expand the podcast, expand the listener base, all that good stuff. So with that being said, make sure to follow the Very Cold Lasagna podcast on social media for even more filthy casual takes and more rambling rants, all that good stuff on socials, on Twitter and Instagram at Very Cold Lasagna. And if you're listening to this podcast on any audio platforms that I'm available on, Apple Podcasts and Spotify, rate and review the show. Give it 1 to 5 stars. Leave me your reviews. And listen, if you're watching this on YouTube, make sure to smash the subscribe button. And if you're not, what the heck are you waiting for? Hit that subscribe button. Hit that notification bell so you'll be notified of each and every upload. Smash the subscribe button as well so this podcast reaches across the YouTube algorithm. And leave a comment down below with your takes, your opinions on the topic at hand, that being the week that was and the week that will be for my San Francisco 49ers. Yeah, that was the past and is upcoming in this episode. So yeah, and last but not least, share it with your friends, share it with your neighbors, share this with whoever's around you currently, even if it's someone that you're not necessarily comfortable with. Share the good, the bad, and the ugly about this podcast entitled Very Cold Lasagna. So that being said, let's talk about my San Francisco 49ers at the midway point. Yeah, we have reached the midway point for my team. They are now 6-3. They were entering this past week at 5-3 as they went onto the big blue side of the Meadowlands of New Jersey / New York as they took on the New York Giants. And yeah, that atrocity of a stadium called Death Life Stadium. Why do I call it Death Life Stadium or Threat Life Stadium as you call it in Mutant Football League? Well, that's because they have one of the absolute trash turfs in the NFL where players go to get injured and their seasons go to die annually. Yeah, that's why it's called Death Life Stadium. Yeah, even their own players' seasons go to die, as we have seen this past season with Malik Neighbors. So how their turf hasn't been replaced yet, I don't know. But anyway, as it pertains to my Niners, they went on to take on the New York Giants this past week. The 2-6 Giants. So yeah, let's talk about it. Let's talk about this game. The Niners, the defense, who had been very mixed. They were coming off a very bad performance against the Houston Texans, having lost Nick Bosa and Fred Warner for the year. They got off to another poor start yet again because they're ultra charming, ultra soft everything. The soft run defense, soft tackling, soft pass defense against a severely depleted receiving Giants core. Like a Giants receiving core that didn't have Malik Neighbors. They don't have Cam Scatterboo anymore. Jackson Dart has absolutely nothing other than, I guess, Darius Slayton, but that's about it. And yet, the Niners defense was still struggling against this absolutely nothing of an offense. Yeah, that's bad. That is absolutely terrible. And yeah, it just goes to show you just how much of a charming, ultra soft Kirkland Costco of a defense they are. But yeah, after they allowed that opening drive touchdown to the Giants, offensively, they were able to respond. They got off to a much better start than the defense did. They responded to Giants opening touchdown with 2 straight touchdown drives of their own. Mac Jones was pretty efficient in the passing game with nice checkdowns and mid-range passes. He went 12 for 12 in the first half. So it was pretty much perfect in the first half. Aside from a needless sack fumble that I'm not sure why Kyle Shanahan decided to set up to fail for that one. Like why he decided with very little time after the 2-minute warning to just throw the ball. Yeah, I get it. I get the concept that sure you wanted to go for more points, but I feel like you were getting a little greedy there. I believe they were up 21. No, like 17-7 by that point, but they got too greedy. You could have just knelt it down and then go to the half because you were getting the ball to start anyway. So that's that was my counter against that. I just didn't understand why Kyle had to go for that. And then some other notable standouts for as much as I crap if I've given him for most of the season. Juwan Jennings. He had his best game with a touchdown on the second drive, and he looked pretty good with some better route running. I'm not sure if it was to impress other teams for a certain deadline, but he looked pretty good. He had his best outing of the year after his little bitch fit in training camp. And besides giving up 2 sacks and allowing that sack fumble in the first half, surprisingly, this offensive line, they held up their own against a tough front four that had Brian Burns, Dexter Lawrence, Abdul Carter, and Kayvon Thibodeau. It was very surprising. That defensive front four is usually, for all as much as the Giants have done very bad this year, that has been one of the very few net positives for them. What they did excel in was taking advantage of the Giants' terrible run defense. It's like one of the worst run defenses in the NFL. Christian McCaffrey really did well in this game, and even Brian Robinson ran roughshod on them for much of that game. Speaking of Brian Robinson Jr., this was like the most action that he has seen since being traded from the Commanders to us. He saw a lot of the field in the second half, and he gashed through the Giants for a nice, I think it was like a 15 to 20 yard touchdown in the fourth quarter. And this was what fans like me have been wanting to see from Kyle Shanahan since he got traded here. We wanted to see Brian Robinson get a lot of love. And yes, the offensive line has been shit. Not giving Brian Robinson some holes, but we wanted to see a little bit more action from Brian Robinson Jr. And that was the whole point of trading him for him, right? To help lessen a little bit of the load from Christian McCaffrey. I'm not saying like take away a bunch of his reps, but I'm saying is lessen Christian McCaffrey's load because Kyle Shanahan just feeding the ball to him too much. He's like taking a lot of the load to the point where you never know what's going to happen. So this is I say the game against the Giants was a nice litmus test for Kyle, and I hope he leans into that more going into the next game upcoming. The defense eventually followed suit. They bounced back after allowing that opening drive touchdown. They played a lot better. They tackled a lot better. They were more aware down the line. Sure, the coverage was still spotty at times, but I like how the defense adjusted. They got big stops when necessary. Even some of the not even say awful. I would say bad players did good in this game. I'd say not good, but I'd say decent in this game. Such as the case when they forced a field goal after the sack fumble, so they limited the Giants' opportunities before the end of the first half, and which Graham Gano missed, by the way. And they stopped the Giants from scoring a touchdown at a goal line stand in the second half that held them to a field goal. And the Clinton Farrell, who was released by Washington, he was signed to the practice squad, and he was promoted to the active roster. And I imagine he's going to stay on the active roster after what happened in this game. So I'll touch on that in a bit. But yeah, his return was pretty welcome because he had a couple of key pressures. He had a big sack in the second quarter on Jackson Dart, like a sack out of nowhere. And I like that he didn't give up on it. So I really, his performance, it was a very nice one in his return. Now, there's supposed to be another guy by the name of Keon White that he did play in this game, but his name wasn't really mentioned a whole lot. So that kind of tells you, where was he? Where was he in this one? Jair Brown, like, for as much crap as like many Niners fans on Twitter, Instagram, you name it, all over social media, I have given crap about Jair Brown. And yeah, he's usually a name that many people would flame. But he actually had a really nice game in this one. Granted, this was against a very bad Giants team, but yeah, he was all over the place. Tackling, coverage. He made a nice touchdown saving play, punching the ball out of Wan'Dale Robinson's hands very late in the game. Yeah, prevented the touchdown. So yeah, Jair Brown played a nice game on this past Sunday in Week 9, very early in the morning. So yeah, when you look at the Niners, yes, it was against a very bad Giants team. It was a nice bounce back win for the 49ers heading into a more important matchup in the next week. As for the New York Giants, there's not really much to talk about them, which is, yeah, pretty much been the theme of them in the last couple of years, which is, I'd say, unfortunate. But if you're looking at it from a Giants POV, expected, and yeah, even with a new quarterback that does show promise. I mean, I'm liking what I've seen from Jackson Dart so far. He continues to show positive strides with his dual threat ability, and making very smart decisions with the football. But after Jackson Dart led that opening drive touchdown, which was capped off by one of his receivers lunging for the pylon, I can't get the name. I'm sorry for that. He and the offense just couldn't muster much the rest of the way. Yeah, he even had a rushing touchdown very late in the game. He also threw a nice touchdown to reserve Gunnar Olszewski. Sorry for mispronouncing that. All of that just came way too late. The Niners were already blowing them out late. Sure, the final score was 34-24, but yeah, all the Giants' points up to the end of the game, it was mainly in garbage time. It was just mainly to make the score less painful to look at. So for Jackson Dart, he was trying to make do with what he has left. But yeah, with Cam Scatterbo gone, Malik Neighbors gone, and essentially only having Darius Slayton left to go to, he can only do so much. He can only do so much, especially with a very depleted receiving core and a not so great offensive line and a not so great running game, which is only left with Devin Singletary. Like, Jackson Dart doesn't really have a lot to work with. Like, he really doesn't. The other big strength of the team, I touched on this earlier, was the front four of the Giants on the defensive front. Brian Burns, Kayvon Thibodeau, Dexter Lawrence, Abdul Carter. They were very quiet in this game, other than the sack fumble and a few sacks. But that's about it. The below average offensive line for the 49ers, they surprisingly held up. They were surprised. That front four for the Giants, they got contained. They barely got to Mac Jones other than those things that I just mentioned. So, yeah, not exactly a great performance by the Giants, which is not a surprise for them this season. And then the injury bug also continued to hit them in the ass. They lost linebacker Darius Mausa in this game, and they also lost another piece to the offensive line, John Michael Schmitz, which again continues to add up to the struggles for the offense. And another piece that Jackson Dart lost, and then he lost another part of the secondary, Corey Black. I guess he's a backup, a reserve piece, but either way, whether it's a backup or a starter, this Giants team is losing pieces left and right. And even with those pieces, this is still a team that just doesn't have a lot to offer. There's still a lot they have to work on. And I get it. They're in a never-ending rebuild, but you have a potentially franchise quarterback that hopefully coming soon, and then after the season's over, you can start building on those pieces. And I don't know, is Brian Daboll the one to do it? Maybe not. Maybe Jackson Dart might have saved his ass after all the crap that we've given to Brian Daboll, but we'll see. And also Joe Chosen. So my final thoughts on this game for my 49ers. Yeah, this win was nice and all. I mean, given it's against a very crappy Giants team. As I got a surprise notification. I don't know what the heck that was. Yeah, but you never know what happens here on Very Cold Lasagna. But as with most of these games in our season for the Red and Gold, it of course comes at the price of injury mania coming to bite us in the ass. And lo and behold, it comes on that Death Life turf. I might have talked about it in the last Red and Gold Roundup of Very Cold Lasagna. And I also was thinking to myself, I was praying to the gods. And as the game went along, I was thinking, yes, the Death Life turf hasn't gone to the Niners yet. But then it struck. It just had to strike. It had to strike and claim another victim very late in the game. And that victim was Mykel Williams, the rookie edge rusher. God damn it. Of all the places, and I didn't want to, no one wanted it to happen at all. But of course, it comes at Death Life Stadium. And of course, lo and behold, what's the injury? Torn ACL. Torn ACL, ladies and gentlemen. Mykel Williams gets the same fate as Nick Bosa. Torn ACL. And that was confirmed this past Monday. Again, we asked ourselves, what do the Niners do at practice, and what did they do to deserve this? And not better than that, what did the 49ers do to piss off the football gods? Was it building a stadium on Family Guy, that Family Guy episode where Peter picked up an Indian skull that caused a poltergeist on his house, on the Griffin family? Is this a real life Peter Geist? That's the title of that season 4 episode. Is this a real life Peter Geist episode? Peter Geist on the San Francisco 49ers that's been going on for, I'd say, almost 10 years now. Is this what's happening to my 49ers? Is this why Kyle Shanahan can't get his shit together with this team? That's why he can't, no matter how many times he changes the strength and conditioning staff, he can't get his team together? Let me ask this. What are the 49ers doing in practice that's causing all these injuries and causing, whether it's in practices or in games, but mainly in practice? What are they doing in practice? Which I actually will touch on in a bit, because there are even more practices practice injuries, running wild. Like, what are they doing that are causing all these injuries, whether it's in game or in practices? Sure, some of it might have to do with luck, but also at the same time, you might have to consider it might be a Niners thing. Yeah, enough of that rambling though, because we also have to ask the question: with Nick Bosa gone, with Mykel Williams gone, you still don't have Yuto Gross-Matos for however long because he re-aggravated his hamstring injury in the lead up to this game. Who's there left? Bryce Huff? At least he's coming back for this week. But yeah, you don't really have much. And everyone was all mad and stuff about Kyle and John not doing anything at the trade deadline. Initially, I was too. I was pretty mad at Kyle and John, but I didn't tweet about it because, I kept my feelings reserved. But I will say here now, part of me was initially disappointed in them because their silence at the trade deadline was essentially accepting defeat on the season, giving the injuries to Nick Bosa, Fred Warner, and the countless injuries to others. Even if it's not season ending, it was just too much to overcome. It might have just been too much to overcome, even if they were able to come back. And there are still a lot of holes on this roster, whether it be offensively or defensively. But I look at it on the offensive side too, because offensive line, which they still want to address. At the same time, though, looking at the other side of the fence, the other part of me does understand where they're coming from with how they didn't want to overpay for a rental like Trey Hendrickson, especially with how someone pointed it out greatly, how they don't have many draft picks next year. And given how weak the NFL is as a whole at the moment, yeah, again, like even if they wanted to like trade for a rental or maybe someone like a Kayvon Thibodeau who could still be around for next year, it's like that kind of piece is not going to be enough to fix this defense, and let alone the overall team. And yeah, like I could kind of understand that, but then at the same time, history has shown their history. It's shown that they barely have hit on draft picks, other than George Kittle, Fred Warner, Nick Bosa. Who else? Someone can name it in the YouTube comments or a DM on socials. And they also been addressing the wrong needs in their entire tenure. They haven't addressed the offensive line properly. So the rebound win against the Giants is nice, but it again came at more cost than good. Now they're going to the back half of this season with all the even more injuries on defense. And as we enter this back half of the season with an easy schedule, that kind of doesn't justify, doesn't justify it, to be honest with you, because any given Sunday, like you can't look at this easy schedule in quotations and say, oh, this is a win, guaranteed. We're gonna win this game. With all the injuries that the 49ers are battling right now, it might just be eventually too much to overcome. Those Roosters are gonna come home to shit on the Niners. And I don't mean this in any type of negative way. I'm just being realistic. So again, you never know, but you just have to see as we move towards the back half of the season. And that starts with a big Week 10 matchup against the LA Rams. Before I touch on that, though, let me talk about the Giants one more time before we move on. Again, Jackson Dart continues to be a silver lining for this team. He continues to play hard. He's been like one of my underrated favorite players this season, despite a very bad supporting cast. But like I said, you can only do so much before the opposition makes the game very ugly, and they make it too far up for Jackson Dart to like try to make it a game. So for the Giants, it'll remain that way unless they get a few more wins, but even that seems unrealistic. Like the best guesses I can give them for at least 1 or 2 more wins, which at max that's gonna be all they get, is gonna be against either the Raiders or the Injury Mania Commanders. But that's it. That's pretty much their ceiling for this season. So let's move on to a big, much more important matchup this upcoming week. And that is a Week 10 showdown against the LA Rams. So this was a rematch from their meeting down in LA in Week 5, down at Levi South, where the Niners were more injury riddled in that game. They didn't have they had barely anybody in that one. But it was still a surprisingly back and forth battle. And mind you that the 49ers were going into that game on less than 4 days, 4 days of rest, just like the Rams though. But again, the Niners were severely beaten and battered in going to that game. But the Niners still had a 17-7 halftime lead. But the Rams managed to battle back in that one and tied it at 20-all late in the fourth quarter. And they seemed on the verge of a game-winning touchdown by Mykel Williams, but Alfred Collins made a game-saving play by forcing Kyron to fumble it at the goal line, and Alfred Collins picked up the fumble to give the Niners a chance to get the lead, but Josh Carty ended up tying it to get the game into overtime. And in the extra period, Eddie Pinheiro made some dinero to give the Niners the lead back before the defense once again stopped Kyron Williams, this time on a big 4th down in the red zone, and they won the game. They won a big game, and now they currently hold a 3-0 NFC West lead, but they are currently in second place because they're just one loss behind the LA Rams. So yeah, this is essentially a big week for both of these teams. For the Rams, if they win this one, they essentially take sole possession of first place in the NFC West. But the Niners win, they could take they tie the Rams, but they are in first place because they would be 4-0 in the division. But looking at the Rams past week, in Week 9, they were going up against another also terrible team in the New Orleans Saints. But yeah, they had an easier time taking on the Saints, with Matthew Stafford throwing for 4 touchdowns and the defense making the Saints offense even more limited than we did against the Giants. As if they weren't already, whether it was Tyler Show or Spencer Rattler starting. Tyler Show got the start. Either way, relatively easy win for the Rams, 34-10. But just like with the Niners, I just can't really take away much from this game with the Rams over the Saints. But I will say that Matthew Stafford and that offense is doing very, very well. Matthew Stafford, after the preseason back injury, has been lights out. He's been on fire. And as we transition into the players to watch, and he's pretty much on the list of players to watch again. He has been doing very well this season, playing some really good football. And with that tandem of Puka Nacua, obviously playing another Pro Bowl like season, even with battling injury, he and Puka are a very good 1-2 punch. And now that they add Devontae Adams in the mix, yeah, they are a deadly trio. And then another set of players to watch is, like I said in the previous meeting with these two teams, that front four of Braden Fisk, Kobe Turner, Byron Young, and Jared Verse. They didn't have much success in the previous game against the 49ers because of Mac Jones starting that game, and Jones quickly got the ball out to Christian McCaffrey. So yeah, they are hoping to have much more success against Jones and that beaten up offensive line. And yeah, hopefully to get to him much faster. For my San Francisco 49ers, the question will be who will be the starting quarterback for this week. So that's going to be a player to watch. It also most signs are pointing towards Mac Jones starting again. And if he does, that will be a little bit of an advantage for either team because the Rams defense will know what to expect this time around and how to adjust. But if it's going to be Brock Purdy, then the Rams will know what to expect given that they played Purdy and that kind of 49ers offense. They don't know how he'll be this time around. So it's going to be a decision that Kyle Shanahan will have to make. And he did state that he'll come to a decision by the end of the week. Then the receiving core for the 49ers, it hasn't really been there. I said it last week that the receiving core really needs to step up. Aside from Christian McCaffrey, aside from George Kittle, now Juwan Jennings finally decided to play a lot better last week against the Giants. But I would like to see much more from Kendrick Bourne because in the last meeting he played great against the Rams. But I would like to once again see him step up in this game. With Ricky Pearsall not there, this Rams team is going to target Christian McCaffrey once again, maybe even target Juwan Jennings. So I would like Kendrick Bourne to step up again. And now that they have George Kittle, maybe he can get involved too. So looking at the injury report for both of these teams, just like in the last game, the injury report for the blue and gold is pretty clean. The only notable is Puka Nacua, but he is pretty much fully expected to be a full go, barring any setbacks from his rib injury that he had this past Sunday. But yeah, that Rams team is once again mainly fully healthy, which goes to show you how this Niners team is run. Speaking of my Niners, that injury list, on the contrary, continues to be very lengthy. John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan, they continue to make the rounds about, Brandon Ayuk. He's progressing. He's making good progress with his ACL rehab. Like, how many times have we heard this, like, all season long about his ACL rehab? Like, when are we going to hear about, he's coming off the PUP list. He's been activated off the PUP list. When are we ever going to hear that? Like, huh? I mean, again, I'm no athlete. I'm no doctor. But if he's not progressing as expected, or they're just gonna not activate him and something shady's going on, then can like an insider like Ian Rappaport or Adam Schefter just come out and say it? Like they're just gonna hold it out so they can trade his ass because Brandon Ayuk is a diva. Can just some breaking news come out and say that they're doing some dirty shit? I don't know, man. So looking at the injury report for this upcoming game, there were some injuries that happened on the Thursday before this Sunday. And it's not really encouraging, especially because these injuries occurred to the defensive line. Alfred Collins, he sat out with the hip injury. Keon White, the new edge rusher that they traded from New England, he pulled his groin, but he was still able to practice on a limited basis. And then defensive lineman Kalia Davis, he injured his ankle, which, having 3 defensive linemen get injured in a single practice is not encouraging at all. And I'm hoping that they at least play in some capacity. That's all I'm hoping for, because again, where is the pass rush? As if we didn't have any more of a pass rush. D. Winters, the linebacker, is 50-50, maybe more 30-70 to play after he had a mixed week of practice with the knee injury. Ricky Pearsall, not expected to play again with a knee injury, just like with Brandon Ayuk. If his knee injury is much more serious than expected, can Kyle and John just come out clean and say that Ricky Pearsall is at least not going to play for much longer than expected, or just put him on short-term IR, if not season-ending IR? Meanwhile, Brock Purdy, I talked about a little bit earlier. He continues to make more progress on his toe injury with increased limited practice. Hopefully, at some point, he does a full practice. Like I said, Kyle stated he would make a decision on whether he or Mac Jones would start on Sunday against the Rams. Speaking of Mac Jones, if he does start this Sunday, he should be a little bit more healthy based on the practice reports of him fully practicing despite injuries to both of his knees. And then on the offensive line, both Ben Bartch and Jake Brendel are expected to be back. Bartch had been missing with an ankle injury, while Jake Brendel, the center, the center that everyone loves to hate, including me, he had been out with a hamstring injury since the Falcons game. And if Jake Brendel is expected to be back in the lineup, his ass better be the backup center, because Matt Hennessy has been playing better than him. So, yeah, I don't want to see Jake Brendel back in the starting lineup. No, thank you. Kyle Shanahan better wake the fuck up on that. So, looking at the keys to victory for both of these teams, for the LA Rams, you have for Matthew Stafford, there's no more Fred Warner to be afraid of. You can have you can go to Puka Nacua, which I'll talk on in a bit. You can go to Devontae Adams, but why not mix it up a bit? Because Tatum Bethune, relatively inexperienced in the green dot position. Why not go to Tyler Higbee a little bit more? Pick on Tatum Bethune, the third year player, now in the role of Fred Warner. Have Matthew Stafford, the future Hall of Famer, pick on Tatum Bethune by throwing it to the middle and go to Tyler Higbee a little bit more. And then obviously Puka Nacua. That's it. That's all I got to say. That's a simple key to victory. Go to Puka Nacua. Have Matthew Stafford, whether it's air it out, do some short passes, frequently target Puka Nacua. I don't have anything else to say about that. And then same as the last game, the front four has to get to whoever starts a quarterback, whether it's Mac Jones or Brock Purdy, because they failed to do that, at least for the most part, last game. So they have to find ways to get to the quarterback, because surprisingly, they didn't do that in the last one. And then for my San Francisco 49ers, they got to get rid of the football relatively quickly. Again, whoever starts at quarterback, Mac Jones did that successfully in the last game, but if he is starting again in this game at home this time, he's got to do the same thing, whether it's to Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle, Juwan Jennings, or Kendrick Bourne. Got to do it again. And then for Kyle Shanahan, you got to integrate Brian Robinson Jr. more, just like he did against the New York Giants, because you got to lessen a little bit of the workload on CMC. Let him get some rest to keep him fresh. So I'd like to see more of Brian Robinson Jr., whether it's in the rushing or receiving game. It's the Rams run defense is not like the Giants run defense where it's absolutely terrible. The Rams run defense is actually good. You gotta integrate Brian Robinson Jr. more. And then you got to find ways to limit Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams as well, because the Niners secondary is, again, young and a little bit, they have a little bit more experience now, but it's still not enough. So now you have to find ways to limit Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams just like before. So yeah, it's a big matchup this coming Sunday, but now there's much less pieces less important pieces in this one for the 49ers. So they need some important unknown pieces to really step up in this game. All they have left on the pass rush is Bryce Huff, who they expect back in this game. And if he's surprisingly not back for this game, then who's gonna be that man that's gonna pressure the offensive line, get to Matthew Stafford? Who's gonna be that guy? And then who's gonna be that guy that limits Puka Nacua, limits Devontae Adams, even gets stop Kyren Williams? This Rams offense is relatively hot right now, while this defense, as good as they did against the Giants, but again, it's against the Giants. This might end up being a repeat of the Texans game, if this defense does not do well against the Rams. So the 49ers, they have to find a way to defensively to at least somewhat slow down the Rams offense. And obviously, conversely, the offense has to do their share as well in trying to keep up with the Rams, just like they did in the last game. So, yeah, that's pretty much what I got for you. Let me know your thoughts on this upcoming game between the Rams and the 49ers. The 49ers hosting this coming Sunday in Week 10. Yeah, share me your thoughts. Share me your predictions in the comments below on YouTube, or slide into the DMs if you're listening to the audio version of this on wherever you get your podcasts. Yeah, let me know your thoughts. Slide into the DMs at Very Cold Lasagna on Twitter or Instagram. Let's have a conversation about my San Francisco 49ers and your predictions for this Sunday's matchup against LA. Yeah, we got to beat LA. But anyway, that's going to do it for this episode of Very Cold Lasagna. I've been your host, Dylan Lasagna. Once again, bringing you my filthy casual takes on the world of sports. This episode being my San Francisco 49ers. And yeah, these matchups against the Giants and the Rams. The upcoming one, at least. But until the next one, keep the lasagna very cold in the fridge with your filthy casual takes on the world of sports. Happy 300 to this icy yet spicy podcast. And until I see you, when I see you for the next one, peace out.